You keep running into the same kind of pain, just wearing different faces. A family member who hurts you and calls it love. A friend who betrays you and calls it a mistake. A partner who drains you and calls it need. A boss who sets you up to fail and calls it a learning moment. You start to believe you are the problem, that you are too kind, too soft, too trusting for this world. You become a people pleaser, bending yourself smaller so others stay comfortable. But deep inside, a quiet thought keeps returning, whispering that this cannot all be coincidence. Most people silence that thought. They call it overthinking and push it away. They accept repeated betrayal as normal. They accept toxic family roles as destiny. They accept social harm as bad luck. But survival begins the moment you stop calling a pattern random. Paranoia is only madness when there is no danger, but when danger is real, awareness is sanity. Some failures are not accidents, they are directions, gentle hands, guiding you toward places where you lose and others win. You have felt this before. The strange moment when something felt wrong, but you ignored it to stay kind. The small doubt that you buried to keep peace. The feeling that you were being moved like a piece on a board you never agreed to play on. This is not about blaming the world or hating people. This is about opening your eyes to the structure beneath your pain. Because once you see the structure, you stop drowning in confusion and start learning how to swim. That's the surface. Now we go beneath it. You were never taught how power really moves between people. You were taught to be polite, to be patient, to give chances, to keep the family together, to keep the group calm, to keep yourself small so no one gets upset. That training made you easy to shape, easy to guilt, easy to place in roles you never chose. I'm here to say the truth most never hear. Power is not lost in loud battles. It is taken quietly, in tiny moments, where you doubt yourself and trust others more than your own instincts. Once you see this, you stop wondering why the same harm keeps returning in new forms. Most people are not allies by default. That sentence may feel sharp, but it is the key that unlocks every confusing relationship you have lived through. Every person is playing a survival game, even if they call it love, friendship, duty, or care. Some play gently, some play rough, but everyone protects their own needs first. Social life is not just connection, it is a field of silent tests. Who will give more? Who will bend first? Who will carry blame? When you walk in blind, you become the easiest piece to move across the board. This is why toxic family patterns repeat, why you always end up as the fixer, the peacekeeper, the one who apologizes first. This is why repeated betrayal feels personal when it is often structural. The faces change. The story stays the same. A new friend, a new partner, a new boss, yet the same role waits for you like a chair already pulled out. I'm not here to make you cruel. I'm here to make you aware. Awareness is not aggression, it is self-respect. With open eyes. Once you understand the rule, you stop calling yourself broken and start seeing the design that kept you trapped. Now that you know the rule, here's what happens if you ignore it. If you stay unaware, you stay harvestable. That is the truth beneath every repeated hurt you have carried. Once you learn to see red flags, you stop walking into traps with open hands and closed eyes. You start to feel when a favor is bait, when a smile is a mask, when an opportunity hides a drop beneath a shiny floor. This is not about becoming cold or suspicious of everyone. This is about learning the shape of danger so you can finally move without bleeding every time you trust. You are not the victim. You are the pattern seer. And a pattern seer cannot be led into the same maze twice. Here is the warning. If you ignore the signs, they do not fade. They repeat. The same draining person returns in a new body. The same betrayal arrives in a new story. The same collapse appears in a new place. You keep asking why life feels unfair while standing inside a design you were never taught to recognize. The payoff of awareness is quiet but powerful, clear judgment, firm boundaries, protected energy, fewer people in your life, but safer ones, kindness that is chosen, not stolen, healing that comes from understanding, not from pretending. Here is your immediate action. Today, think of one person who often leaves you tired, guilty, or unsure of yourself. Do not confront them. Do not explain anything. Just observe them for one day without reacting. Watch their timing. Watch their requests. Watch how you feel after each exchange. That simple act is the first step out of the maze. And if this speaks to you, place a vow in your mind or in the comments. I will not walk blind again. Say it once and mean it. You've heard the promise. Now you'll learn the mechanism. Every trap is built slowly. No one walks up to you and says they plan to harm you. That would give you a chance to defend yourself. Instead, the setup arrives softly, dressed as normal life. It begins with mild drains, small requests, little favors, moments where you give more than you planned. Notice what happens when you say yes too quickly. The next request comes sooner. The tone shifts. What was once kindness becomes expectation. The first brick of the trap is laid without noise. Then entitlement grows. They stop asking and start assuming. Your time feels like it belongs to them. Your effort feels like something they deserve. Notice what happens when you hesitate or question them. Their warmth cools. Their patience thins. Their mask slips just enough to show what hides underneath. When entitlement works, envy follows. They smile when you stay small. They grow quiet when you rise. They wrap doubt in soft words and call it care. Say no once and watch how fast support turns into pressure. When envy cannot hold you down, sympathy steps forward. Crises appear when you set boundaries. Tears arrive when you pull away. Stories of suffering unfold exactly when you try to protect yourself. Notice what happens when you stay calm instead of rushing to rescue. The emotional storm loses force because the real tool was never love. It was guilt. When guilt no longer works, arrogance takes its place. They speak over you, decide for you, place you beneath them in public. Say no once and watch how control reveals itself through anger or coldness. If you still remain, betrayal arrives. Trust is built only to be broken. Apologies come wrapped in promises that never change behavior. They study how many times you forgive. And finally, the collapse attempt. A situation where you carry the blame and they walk away clean. It feels like bad luck. It feels like fate. But it is architecture, a slow-cooked design built over time. Notice what happens when you look back at your life with this lens. The same sequence, the same structure, the same ending. Say no once and watch. That is how you see the trap before it closes. Now you'll meet the 7 architects. The first architect is the small drain. This one never announces danger. They appear harmless, friendly, easy to say yes to. At work, they stop by your desk with tiny requests. Just a minute. Just a small favor. Just a quick help. Notice what happens when you say yes too quickly. The visits become frequent. The interruptions become normal. Your focus breaks. Your time thins. Your energy quietly leaks away. The recognition pattern is constant, minor pulling that feels too small to refuse, yet too frequent to ignore. The hidden psychology is simple. They are testing how reachable you are, how open your door stays, how easy it is to enter your space without permission. Not because they hate you, but because an unlocked door invites anyone to walk in. The consequence is subtle but dangerous. When real opportunity arrives, you are tired. When real crisis appears, you are already drained. You feel like you have no strength left, and you blame yourself for being weak, when in truth your strength was quietly harvested. The boundary instruction is small but powerful. Delay once. Let aid. Request wait. Give yourself space to choose instead of obey. Here is the micro test. Say, "Not today," and watch their reaction. Someone who respects you will understand. Someone who needs access to you will show irritation, guilt, or coldness. That reaction tells you everything you need to know. A leak that rots the floor before the flood. The small drain is never about the task. It is about ownership of your availability. And once they know they can reach you any time, the next stage is ready. When small drains succeed, entitlement follows. The second architect is the entitled taker. This one believes your effort exists for their comfort. They do not really ask for things. They speak as if your agreement is already written. In a relationship, they say, "We're doing this," instead of, "Would you like to?" They assume your time is open, your energy is available, your patience is endless. Notice the recognition pattern. You feel a small pressure in their words, a quiet expectation that saying no would be rude, selfish, or wrong. Over time, you stop checking what you want. You just follow what they assume. The hidden psychology is conversion. Your kindness is turned into obligation. Your generosity becomes a debt you never agreed to owe. Each time you comply without question, they learn that your boundaries are soft. The consequence is slow erosion. You wake up one day and realize your life feels like it belongs to someone else. Your needs come last. Your voice grows smaller. You feel trapped, but you cannot name when the cage was built. It was built in every moment you said yes when you meant maybe, and maybe when you meant no. The boundary instruction is direct. Make them ask clearly. Pull hidden assumptions into open words. Do not fill in their expectations with automatic obedience. Here is the micro test. Ask why when they make a demand. Watch the discomfort. Someone who respects you will explain calmly. Someone who feels entitled will act offended, irritated, or shocked that you even asked. That reaction exposes the truth beneath their request. A hand that never stops reaching. Once you see this, you stop mistaking entitlement for love, duty, or friendship. You understand that real care does not assume ownership of you. And when entitlement takes root, something darker begins to grow behind it. Once entitlement sets in, envy awakens. The third architect is the envious saboteur. This one does not attack you openly. They sit close, smile often, and speak softly. But inside, they resent your growth. Their recognition pattern hides in small comments. That sounds risky. Are you sure you're ready for that? People like us don't usually get those chances. In social spaces, they celebrate you just enough to stay near, but never enough to see you rise above them. Notice what happens when you share a dream. Their response always leans toward doubt, fear, or delay. The hidden psychology is quiet pain. Your success threatens their identity. If you move forward, they feel left behind. Instead of facing their own fear, they pull at yours. They do not need to push you down. They only need to make you stop climbing. The consequence is stolen opportunity, paths you never walk, chances you never take, confidence that shrinks without a single direct attack. You think you chose safety, but safety was suggested by someone afraid of your power. The boundary instruction is protection of your seeds. Do not share plans before they are strong. Do not offer your growing ideas to mouths that feed on doubt. Let results speak, not intentions. Here is the micro test. Withhold good news. Stay quiet about your next step. Watch how their energy changes. Watch the relief. Watch the ease return. That reaction reveals what their words tried to hide. A shadow that shortens your sunlight. Once you recognize envy, you stop calling it concern. You stop trusting advice that always leads you to stay small. And when envy can no longer guide you, a new tool appears in their hands. When envy cannot win openly, sympathy becomes a weapon. The fourth architect is the sympathy manipulator. This one does not use force. They use stories. They speak of their pain, their struggles, their unfair life, and they place it gently in your hands. The recognition pattern is timing. Every time you try to set a boundary, a crisis appears. Every time you say no, tears arrive. In the workplace, you finally say you cannot take extra work, and suddenly they tell you about stress, sickness, family problems, or how no one ever helps them. You feel your resolve soften, not because you want to help, but because you feel guilty for not doing so. The hidden psychology is quiet control. Your empathy becomes their leash. As long as you feel responsible for their pain, they own your freedom. They do not need to demand your time. They only need to make you feel cruel for protecting it. The consequence is emotional. Captivity. You stay in roles that exhaust you. You carry burdens that were never yours. You silence your own needs so theirs can remain loud. Over time, you forget what you even want because you are always responding to someone else's storm. The boundary instruction is care without collapse. You can listen without surrender. You can offer kind words without offering your life. Here's the micro test. Stay calm during their emotional surge. Do not rush to fix, rescue, or apologize for having a boundary. Notice what happens when their tears no longer move you like strings on a puppet. Someone truly in pain will accept steady presence. Someone using pain as a tool will grow restless, frustrated, or dramatic. That reaction shows the truth, a net woven from pity. And when sympathy stops working, arrogance takes the stage. Quick check. Are you rescuing someone who keeps you trapped? Let that question land without rushing to answer it. Think of the person whose pain always becomes your responsibility. Think of how often you silence your own needs to hold their world together. Notice how your chest feels when you imagine walking away. That feeling is not love. That is a cage with soft walls. The fifth architect is the arrogant dominator. This one does not hide their control. They wear it openly, like a badge. Their recognition pattern is interruption, correction, and quiet takeover. In a relationship, they speak for you, decide for you, answer questions meant for you. They joke at your expense in public and call it harmless fun. Notice what happens when you try to slow the moment, when you speak calmly and refuse to be rushed. Their impatience leaks out because they are not used to resistance. The hidden psychology is insecurity dressed as authority. They need to feel above you to feel safe inside themselves. Your submission becomes the food that keeps their crown on. The consequence is slow shrinking. Your voice gets softer. Your opinions feel less important. Others start copying their behavior, treating you as lower without ever thinking about why. Over time, you forget that you were once confident, because living under someone else's shadow becomes normal. The boundary instruction is simple but sharp. Speak once, slow and firm, without apology and without extra explanation. Do not defend your decision. Do not soften your refusal. Here's the micro test. Hold eye contact after you say no. Someone who respects you will adjust. Someone who needs dominance will escalate, mock, guilt, or punish. That reaction reveals their true need for control, a crown stolen from your head. And when domination fails, betrayal arrives. The sixth architect is the repeat betrayer. This one feels familiar because they always return. They earn your trust, break it, and come back with soft words and wounded eyes. Their recognition pattern is apology without change. In friendship, they share your secrets and swear it was an accident. In work, they take your credit and say they didn't mean to. In love, they cross the same line twice and call it a mistake each time. Notice what happens after every apology. The words sound sweet, but the behavior never truly shifts. The hidden psychology is quiet testing. They are studying your limits. They want to know how much pain you will accept before you leave. Each time you forgive, they learn a deeper cut they can make next time. They are not always evil. Sometimes they are just careless with other people's hearts. But the effect is the same. The consequence is the final betrayal, the one that breaks what was left of your trust. You start doubting yourself instead of them. You ask why you keep getting hurt, while the pattern sits in front of you, repeating. The boundary instruction is hard but healing. Judge patterns, not promises. Words are wind. Behavior is truth. Here's the micro test. Say, "We're done once," and mean it. Watch what happens. Someone who respected you will accept it with sadness. Someone who used you will fight, guilt, rage, or beg for control to return. That reaction shows who they always were. A blade hidden in a handshake, and above them all sits the architect. The seventh architect is the setup architect. This one is the hardest to see because they rarely touch you directly. They place you. They arrange rooms, roles, opportunities, and situations where you fail without knowing why. Their recognition pattern hides in offers that feel slightly off. A job that gives you all the responsibility but none of the support. A partnership where your name takes the risk and theirs takes the reward. A family role where you carry the blame and others keep the peace. Notice what happens when you ask simple questions. Who benefits if this works? Who benefits if this fails? Who walks away clean? The hidden psychology is invisible control. They shape the board while you believe you chose the game. They never push you into the trap. They invite you in and let you step forward on your own. That is why it feels like fate when things collapse. You think, I chose this. But the choices were framed long before you saw them. The consequence is deep self-doubt. You blame yourself for not being smart enough, strong enough, lucky enough. Meanwhile, the architect stays untouchable, watching you carry weight that was never yours. The boundary instruction is one quiet pause before every major yes. Slow down moments that feel urgent. Silence reveals pressure. Pressure reveals motive. Here is the micro test. Pause before agreement and watch who rushes you. Watch who needs you to decide fast. That urgency is not for your benefit. A chessboard where you never chose the game. And now, the parable. A traveler meets a smiling guide who promises a shortcut to success. The guide praises him, encourages him, tells him he is special, chosen, destined for more. The traveler follows, trusting each turn, believing he is moving forward. Hours pass. The walls rise. Higher. The paths narrow. Every exit disappears. Only then does he realize the guide never planned for him to escape. The maze was always the destination. The traveler was never meant to win. Now that you see them, you cannot unsee them. Pause. Breathe. Let everything settle for a moment. Let the faces you just thought of pass through your mind without judgment. The small drain, the entitled taker, the quiet saboteur, the guilt weaver, the dominator, the betrayer, the architect. Notice what happens when you connect them to moments in your life. Sudden clarity, sudden recognition, sudden understanding of events that once felt confusing and personal. This is the point where most people turn away, not because it is false, but because it is true. Seeing patterns means you can no longer pretend you are powerless. It means you must choose differently next time. That responsibility feels heavy, but it is also the beginning of freedom. You are no longer inside the maze without a map. You are standing above it, watching the paths. What comes next changes who you are. You started this as someone who felt things were happening to you. An observer of pain, an observer of patterns, an observer of rooms where you always seem to stand in the wrong place. But now the observing has changed you. You are no longer watching life like a confused guest in someone else's house. You are watching with understanding. You see the moves before they finish. You feel the tone beneath the words. You recognize the pull before it tightens. The observer in you has awakened, and that alone separates you from the crowd that still sleeps inside repetition. From observer, you become strategist, not a manipulator, not a predator, a strategist of self-protection. You plan your responses. You choose your battles. You decide where to give and where to close the door. You pause where you once rushed. You question where you once obeyed. You no longer hand out trust like candy. You place it like a me. Crown, carefully, deliberately. Only on heads that do not try to steal it. This is not hardness. This is clarity. This is you taking your seat at the table of your own life. And from strategist, you become unharvestable. No longer easy to drain. No longer easy to guilt. No longer easy to push into silent corners. Predators look past you now because you do not shine with naive openness. You shine with quiet awareness. You are still kind, but your kindness has borders. You are still open, but your openness has gates. You are still loving, but your love no longer costs you yourself. This shift cannot be undone. Once you see, you cannot return to blindness. Once you stand, you cannot return to crawling. Now let's see what life looks like with open eyes. Silence becomes your armor, not the silence of fear, but the silence of choice. You no longer feel the need to explain every decision, justify every boundary, or defend every instinct. You stop giving long reasons to people who were never listening with care. You speak when it matters. You stay quiet when silence is stronger. And in that quiet, your presence changes. People feel that you are not easy to move, not easy to guilt, not easy to pull. Betrayals become fewer, not because the world grows kinder, but because you see danger before it reaches your skin. You sense when a smile carries hunger. You hear when a compliment hides a hook. You feel when a request is really a test. You choose your circles instead of being chosen by them. You trust slowly. You give carefully. You let people earn space in your life instead of giving it away to anyone who knocks. Your energy stops leaking into places that never valued it. Your life grows quieter, fewer dramatic collapses, fewer shocking reversals, fewer nights lying awake asking what went wrong. You move through rooms with steady eyes and steady breath. You are no longer desperate to be liked because you know the cost of blind acceptance. You are no longer afraid to be alone because solitude is safer than a table filled with hidden knives. This is healing through awareness. This is protection through clarity. This is peace built on truth, not denial. You are still human. You still care. You still feel. But now your heart has a gate and you hold the key. That is the reward of seeing the pattern. But one final truth remains. The last enemy does not stand outside you. It wears your voice. It speaks in familiar thoughts. It sounds like kindness. It sounds like hope. It sounds like the part of you that says, maybe I'm overreacting. It says, they didn't mean it. It whispers, give one more chance. That voice is the final gate, the one every manipulator, every betrayer, every architect silently relies on. Because no one can enter your life again unless a part of you opens the door. No trap works without your agreement. No pattern repeats without your permission. Not conscious permission, emotional permission. The version of you that fears conflict. The version of you that hates being seen as cruel. The version of you that still believes love means endurance. That is the last enemy, not others, but the old self that confuses suffering with loyalty and tolerance with virtue. This is the hardest truth. You can learn every red flag. You can recognize every architect. But if you return to the comfort of blindness, the maze rebuilds itself around you. The world does not need to defeat you. You defeat yourself by stepping back into the dark with your eyes open. So the question is no longer about them. It is about you. Will you protect yourself only in theory or in action? Will you honor the pattern seer you have become, or will you betray that awareness the moment it feels uncomfortable? Your next move decides everything. Stay aware or stay harvestable. There is no third path once your eyes have opened. One path belongs to those who walk through life hoping, trusting blindly, forgiving, endlessly, and calling every wound just part of love or just how people are. The other path belongs to those who see patterns, test intentions, and guard their inner world like a kingdom. This space is not for everyone. It is for the pattern seers, the ones who refuse to keep bleeding in rooms that never deserve them. If you have listened this far, you already know you do not want to return to the maze. You want to stand outside it, watching, choosing, deciding. So if you choose the path of awareness, stay here, not as a casual viewer, but as someone who has stepped into self-protection. Subscribe as a quiet pact with yourself, a promise that your life will no longer be shaped by hidden games, a signal that you belong to the circle of those who see before they trust, who pause before they agree, who test before they open their heart. The world is full of traps, but it is also full of people who have learned to walk around them. Become one of them and leave this final vow in your mind or in the comments, not for me, but for you. I choose to stay unharvestable.